Alright, now that we got the first half done, now I can go back in and I'm going to make some of the indents that are in this pencil. I'm going to first go by creating a sketch on the back, and I'm going to work for each one of these little triangles that go all the way around this circle. Generally what you need to know is you need to know your inner and outer diameter of the part of the pencil. So you're going to know how far in the triangle goes, and you're going to know how wide the outside is. You've already got that measurement from our previous part. From there, we're going to have to know how wide the opening is. So you're going to know approximately how many of them are, and we're going to try to get your width. So half of it in one direction, and then the rest of it in the other. If your lines don't perfectly end up perpendicular to each other, we can just go ahead and use the command, make them perpendicular. Put my dimensions in here. Now remember, you have to be halfway through. It makes our life easier. So if I go and I just click on that dimension, and then I divide it by 2, it's going to be halfway in between. So I don't have to calculate it out. I just divide it by 2, and it puts it halfway in the middle. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I just finish off this triangle. Generally that works. Sometimes it leaves just a tiny sliver right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to enhance this shape. I'm making it larger than my area so that I can extrude all of it and not have to worry about just a tiny little sliver probably showing up right there. Then one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rest of these lines on the outside. I'm going to turn these lines that were inside this outside object to be construction lines. That way those lines don't get highlighted when I'm trying to do my extrusion. I can also do the same thing to this one. That way it doesn't get confused with that as well. All right, now that I've got that set up, I'm going to go finish, extrude, zoom in here just so I can see what I'm doing, tell it to be cut, hit OK, and now you're going to see I made one cut on that pencil. Then I'm going to pattern it all the way around. So my next step will be going up here to patterns and then the circular one. I'm going to click on that. First it says feature, so I'm going to pick that last extrusion, rotation axes, my cylindrical object, and then I need to know approximately how many of them there are. So yours will be exact, mine is, remember, just a guess. I'm making this not the exact size, that way you can't copy me. And you have to take your own dimensions. Then there we go. Now you're going to see I have all the little ridges around this side. Next, I'm going to go to the origins, and I'm going to pick one of the planes that cuts all the way through the object. And I'm going to put a sketch on that plane so that I can cut each of my individual little ridges in here. If I press F7, it cuts this in half so I can actually see what I'm working on. I'm going to project geometry so I can get some of these lines. It looks like it gave it to me on the bottom, so I'll work from the bottom side. Or I could just flip this over. But I'm going to need to know the distance from this line to where I'm going to have my first cut. So I would have that measurement, or I could have the measurement from the very back of my object. That works fine too. So I can have that line. I'm just going to randomly make a vertical line here. And then I can put in some dimensions. So I can know my distance. I'm going to zoom in. Now it's really hard to tell with the calipers how far in this little indent goes. So you're just going to guesstimate with a very small little triangle. Alright, so we can make this triangle as small as we want here. I'm going to go finish sketch. Then we're going to use the revolve command. First I click on my profile, and then I'm going to go for the axes. So the axes will be through the center of my object. Interestingly enough, it's not highlighting any of my objects, so I'm going to go over under Origins, find my axes that I want, tell it to be cut, and you see that I will have my first cut in my object. You may notice that your cuts are a little flatter here as well. You could actually add that detail in there, but at minimum I want to have each of the little cuts as you go along. Well, that's the end of part 2.